All right. So, topic for today, and this is going to be a three-part thing. We'll see how it pans out ultimately, but this is supposed to be three parts. And the topic for today is conflict in a relationship. And so, the three things we want to discuss mainly, among other things, is conflict a sign that you should leave your relationship? And what are the nuances here? The second part is going to be conflict in a relationship if you are a nice guy. What did I say here? Conflict, if conflict triggers you a lot and you want to do anything to avoid it. And then the last part is conflict in light of the purpose of relationships in general. This is really when we tie it all in and try to wrap it up, like give you the big picture overview. So, why don't we start with the first part, which is conflict a sign that you should leave your relationship, and what are the nuances? So, what would you say, like what comes to mind when I ask you that question? Should you leave your relationship if conflict arises? Is that a bad sign? All right, super quick before we dive into today's content. If you are looking to become a truly high value man, if you want to become the best version of yourself as a man, the highest potential you can possibly reach in this human form, and you also want to have amazing relationships with other people, with women in particular, if you want to learn how to have thriving, healthy, passionate, deeply fulfilling relationships, then don't forget to subscribe below this video, hit the notification bell so that whenever we post a new video, you will directly be notified. And also like this content if you enjoy it, right? If this resonates with you. And then don't forget to leave a comment, anything that you find valuable, anything you want to share from your own personal experience, post it below the video and I'll be sure to check it out and respond to you. And then lastly, we do have an exclusive Facebook group, which is also linked somewhere below this video. Go check it out, join the Facebook group. I'll be doing exclusive live calls on there where I'll be sharing some of the most transformational tools that have helped me on my journey, that have helped Leo on his journey, and obviously a lot more stuff that I'll be discovering that I'll be sharing with you only inside the Facebook group. So without further ado, enjoy, and I'll see you there. Peace.
The simple answer is no. And now we can dive.
Good, we're done.
Yeah. Second part. Now we dive into it. So there's a few things. I think that conflict for the sake of conflict, that is not what we are looking for. That's not how we want to be in a relationship. And I say that because some relationships are based on drama. Some people, they are drawn to drama and they enjoy that. And they enjoy this fantasy of always being fighting for a relationship, always being fighting for the other person for this and the other person like that. And if I look at this in this way, I think, okay, this is a sign that you need to have conversations. This is a sign that you need to understand why you like drama or the other person likes drama. And then you try to understand why this is the case. You try to analyze these triggers or these things that make the conflict arise to fully have a deeper sense of why these conflicts are coming up, right? Because one thing is when you are seeking for that, and that's what the relationship starts to become, like just conflict, just based on conflict. The other thing is also trying to avoid that in all costs. So no, I don't like this. Let's just have a vacation. I stay like 1 week far away from you. You stay 1 week far away from me, and then we don't have to talk about that. Or when you are too defensive to see the things that trigger the other person in this relationship, so on and so forth. So in general, I think that conflicts are a place that is inviting you to look deeper into yourself and the relationship and the connection with another person. So that's why I think no, you shouldn't leave a relationship just because there's conflict. That can be one of the consequences of dealing with the conflict, that you end up to a place where, okay, I should leave the relationship now. But I don't think the conflict is what should be the trigger for that.
This was really insightful because you already showed both sides. And when I kind of entered this conversation today, I was mainly focused on people or men that say, or in general, like men and women that say, like, "Ooh, the perfect relationship is one where there is no conflict." It's like this fairy tale situation, like happily ever after, no conflict, right? And ultimately, yeah, that is an illusion. And you kind of showed both sides. So there's also the side of people that really want the drama in a relationship. And so something we can look at here is actually, again, our definition of love. Like, why do we create the drama in the relationship? Why is that so important to us, right? Why do we need potentially a person to constantly pull away from us, and then we need to chase them and chase them and chase them? And I remember in, I think, video, I don't remember which episode, but one of the videos that we did, you talked about how what you saw with your mom in relationships when they were about to come to an end, or when they ended, and then trying to fight for it so hard, right? Like that definition of love. And the same goes for when we enter relationships, or when we're in the relationship itself, what is playing itself out? Because whatever that definition of love is, ultimately we're just trying to get to that definition. So we're trying to create circumstances to prove that thing right, whatever that is. Could be drama, could be being neglected, could be even be abused, right? Like whatever that definition is, we're going to find a way to make it happen. And so we also have to look at relationships as a whole, then, like gradual steps towards that fulfillment of this definition of love. So it's like everything we do, we have to look at it at the bigger picture of things, like these small increments. And so my answer too is, where like when conflict arises, this is not a sign that you should leave your relationship. Like conflict in a relationship is inevitable. Like no matter what, you have to look at it this way. There's two people with two totally different life experiences coming together. And so inevitably it's going to be clashing at some point. It's not just going to be like perfectly working out. And that's why I think in order for it to not be conflict just for the sake of conflict, communication is really important to get to the bottom of things, and then to see like what can we derive from the stuff that is coming up for us. That person feels hurt, and then we can actually bring it up so we can get to the core of it, and then we can integrate what needs integration, or we can get on the same page. Because I think the biggest part with conflict is just that we don't communicate then. Most of us, we just shut down, we put our walls up, and that's where things end, and we're not getting anywhere.
I see that happening also with friends nowadays, where something will arise, something will trigger us. And like one example was even today, I was in the cafe and my friend did something, and I had a call with a client, and yeah, he was taking my place, which was the best place for the call. Then I was already like, starting the call, and I came to him and I say like, bro, I need to use here. Can you just let me sit here? And he was like, what? And he got triggered. But I had no time for that. So I was like, bro, just get out. And then he did. Then I sit down, I did my call, and I could see that he was, super triggered about it. And I started to inquire. I was like, bro, let me explain why I asked you to do that and why it was important for me to take you out of the place. And I can see that you're triggered about that. So you have a small conflict there where he was putting his position, I was putting my position. It really triggers us, and sometimes it triggers us to a more like physical level, where you feel, like things rising, you feel that you're getting tense, you feel like this sense of like the testosterone rising. But we are in a stage where we are truly able to communicate clearly with each other. So it's like, bro, you're really triggering me now, like this like emotional thing, and I need 3 minutes of silence just to let it sink so I can understand what you just explained. And that's fine, because it's like these are the moments where you can truly express yourself and show the things that you need to happen, or the other person needs to happen, or what hurt you and what didn't hurt you. So in the end, it's not like you come with a snowball of things that triggered you, things that are pissing you off about the relationship, and then you just throw it out. And you don't want to even hear it anymore, because there's so much build up that now you just want to fucking say it and just point it out your fingers to the other person and fuck you, I don't want to hear, but you did that, no, but about that thing, and you always do that, and it's just like a bunch of, build up stuff that is happening to a moment where it's so difficult now for you to adjust. And sometimes it's just a communication issue, you know. So yeah, that's why I think the conflict is part of developing a relationship, is part of going forward. It doesn't mean that the conflict is punching each other, swearing at each other, raising your voice. No, that's the wrong definition of conflict is. It's just two different ideas where you're communicating that and making clear to the other person, okay, what do I want? What do I expect? Why you are triggered? What is triggering me? And then the other person has also the chance to explain and give their take on that.
And I think that's really what it does. Like the conflict can help us to become really good at communication. So it's almost like it reinforces each other. Good communication helps with conflict, and conflict can help to better communicate, right? And a big thing that you pointed out was that we do not point a finger when the triggers are coming up for us. Like it's just a trigger is something that's sitting inside of us. It has nothing to do with the other person. They're just touching on it like a sore wound that we have, and they're just hitting it. And then for us, that creates a reaction. So instead of saying like, "Oh, it's your fault, fuck you," da 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 da, it's about like, "No, no, no, give me a minute. Let me figure out what's going on inside of me," and then really to communicate that directly to the other person. I think those these mini explosions that we have, like imagine fireworks, at like New Year's, like there's this huge thing going on, but then we have like these tiny firecrackers. And that's kind of like what happens, these mini conflicts that are coming up that really help us stay in touch with what's really going on. Like in the moment, what's happening, and then we can express that to the other person, and that can bring resolution. Because otherwise, like you said, what happens if we don't do this? It's like it's building up in the background, and then at some point there's a massive explosion over something completely trivial, like why did you not buy me apples? Like something stupid, right? And then not to mention, then we also go and we use words like you never do this, you always do this, because it's been like building up and building up, and it's not a specific thing that we're addressing anymore. It's not like this thing when it happened in the moment, right? So that's what we want to come back to stay as real and in this present moment as possible. Like what's going on now? Then we can bring resolution to it, and then conflict can actually bring us closer together, and we feel more connected. Because I think that's a big fear for a lot of us, that conflict is going to drive us apart somehow. We don't have a reference that when we go through conflict together and we communicate through it properly, that we, in the end, afterwards, we actually are closer.
I think that also it gets stronger in men, because I think a lot of men, they are afraid of conflict because they are afraid of losing themselves. They are unable to access the triggers in a way that is healthy. So it's always like this explosion. There's a conflict here, let's go physical. Let's punch each other. Let me start swearing at you. So yeah, they are unable to truly access the situation, to deal with the conflict in the best way possible. So these bursts of like the joke that I did about like testosterone, like testosterone rises and it's like, nah, bro, I don't care what was the reason, I'm gonna fucking punch you in the face, So dealing with conflict and learning how to deal with conflict and seeing that conflict is necessary for you to develop individually and in the relationship is going to help you to change that slowly. It's not easy because, like I said, there's like this, sometimes there's like just this feeling that something goes not the way you want and you get triggered and you just feel this feeling rushing up. And it's like, if I say something, I'm gonna be so triggered that I'm gonna do something stupid, so I'm not going to do it. No, calm down, analyze what's happening in your body, come back to that and be like, okay, let's stop here. Give me 2 minutes. You really triggered me in this. We need to discuss this. I just need 2 minutes just to relax, settle in, so I can fully express myself. And then you learn. And then the next conflict, the next trigger, you can openly talk about it. And you can openly also access when the other person is pointing out something to you that you can't see that you're doing. And you're like, oh, actually that makes sense. I never noticed that I was doing this. I never noticed that. Yeah, I had this behavior. That was not my intention. It's great that you bring lights to that, because now I can change. Now I can be aware of this.
And it's, well, there were many things in there again that are worth pointing out. And one is definitely, again, the awareness, like what you described sometimes. And for us now, it's easier because we can see it quicker, and we just can stay with what's going on, and we don't get like pulled out of the moment and become unconscious again. Because that's what happens for most of us. Like in conflict, we just completely lose our shit. That's why people say, I lost my cool, right? Like they just fucking blew up. And the reaction is so quickly that they can't catch themselves and say, whoa, what's going on here? So increased awareness allows you to not just explode on everyone and fuck up your relationships, and instead actually stay with what's going on and be like, what does that show me inside of me? And that's the other part too. Something you said, where if people start, whether that's in romantic relationships or professional relationships or friendships, to say, when I'm getting triggered, almost like I make the commitment to just let you know that this triggered me. To each other, almost like we have this commitment now, like this contract, where if something triggers me, I'm gonna let you know. And then when both parties are doing it, then they start to realize very quickly, like, this trigger has nothing to do with the other person. So when they say you triggered me, it's like, okay, that means just you go focus on your trigger. Has nothing to do with me. Right? And then it's like really both parties can take responsibility, or whoever is involved, for their own triggers. And then even if it sounds crass or like really uncomfortable, whatever they say, like we can actually deal with it. Like we can really have a solution now to deal with what's coming up inside of us, instead of having to point a finger or say like, wow, this person's such an asshole, like really triggered me so bad. And we can say, no, this is my own shit, no matter how hurtful. And that's what we need to realize. A trigger has nothing to do with the other person. Never. It's our own stuff.
Yeah.
So it's either we blame and point a finger, or we take full responsibility. That is our choice.
And I would even say, especially for the nice guy, when he learns to deal with that, that is truly what changes him from being the nice guy.